she comes up to me and she's like, come here right now. And then she like grabs my arm and like pulls me into the bathroom. Because when I look back at those photos now from that summer, it's really bad. And I'm like, whoa, how did we not know? And then my pump started like alarming. And I was like, oh no, like what's going on? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Heather. If you have seen me before, then you already know that my name is Heather, so welcome back. Anyways, the actual topic of this video is going to be diabetes related, because if you don't know, I have type 1 diabetes. I have made one video about this before. I will link it up here. It was a couple of years ago, so I don't really remember what I talked about. I think I just explained my diabetes, but I wanted to tell you some of my best diabetes story times today, because this disease, illness, this condition comes with a lot of fun little things that happen. And I have a few little funny stories that I want to share with you guys, and like I said a few videos back, I want to share more about my life, and this is a big part of my life, so I might as well share about it, right? And I also know that when I was first diagnosed, I was looking on YouTube to watch videos like this, and there weren't that many. And I know there are a few more now, but there's still not a lot of people out there talking about type 1 diabetes, and I want to be that person for someone. So if you're coming across this video and you just got diagnosed with diabetes, hi. I hope that this video will be enjoyable for you, and you're not alone. There's so many of us out here, so many of us type 1 gang out there, so don't feel alone. It's going to be okay, I promise you. I have a list right here of stories that I want to tell you, so I'm going to just get right into that because there are a few crazy ones. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. So I might as well start off with my diagnosis story. I think that I may have gone over this a little bit in my last video that I made about diabetes, but I will go more in depth in this video. So basically it was 2014, it was summer of 2014, I was 13 years old and I was going into 8th grade the following year. Like after the summer, I was going to be going into 8th grade. And I had a rough time at the end of 7th grade with my anxiety, and I had ended up not going to school for a bit, and I was doing school at home. So I was already having some trouble with my life at that point. And then in the summer, I just remember being really just tired all the time, thirsty all the time, having to go to the bathroom all the time, which are key signs of diabetes. And I would always go swimming at my grandparents' house because they had a pool. And I remember that when I went swimming one time, my grandma had said to my mom, like, oh, is Heather okay? Like, she brought up all these signs, and she was like, she looks like she's losing weight, because that's another thing that happens when you're getting type 1 diabetes and you're undiagnosed. You tend to lose a lot of weight, and I definitely did. And my mom was like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, like, it's fine. But it was not fine. But we didn't know, because I saw myself every day, my family saw me every day, and we didn't really realize that anything was wrong, that I was losing a bunch of weight, because I was used to looking at myself every day and I wasn't noticing a change. Anyways, so I ended up having to go to the doctor because I developed a rash in my mouth. It was called thrush, I believe, and this is also common because of the sugar is building up in your blood and building up in your body, and it's not being properly dealt with inside your body, so it can cause like rashes. And I got one in my mouth, and so we went to the doctor to like get medicine for it or whatever, and the doctor was like, I think you should go get a blood test. They didn't say anything about diabetes, but they were like, you should probably go get a blood test. So I went and got a blood test, and then that evening we were about to have dinner, and they called my house phone, my landline, and my parents answered, and they were like, you need to go to the hospital. Heather's blood sugar is really high. I think it was about 30 or a little over 30 millimoles per liter. I think that's how we do it in Canada. I'll try to translate whatever I just said into what they do in America, just in case that's where you are, but not good. Definitely not good. So my parents were just like, okay, we gotta go to the hospital now, and so we went to the hospital and I was admitted, and I ended up spending about 4 to 5 days there. We had to stay longer than typically people that are just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes do, because I was diagnosed on a Sunday or like a weekend or something like that. So we had to wait for certain specialists to come in to help teach us all the stuff. So I was in the hospital. The food was not very good, but we managed and it was okay. So yeah, after I got out of the hospital, I was on multiple daily injections with my insulin pens, and I was on that for about a year before I got my insulin pump, which I will show you. Oh, she is beautiful. She has cute stickers I got recently, and she's so cute. But yes, it was definitely not something that I was expecting. It was quite a whirlwind of emotions. I cried a lot, but it's like almost 7 years later, and here we are. It's all good. I'm all good. And yeah, that was my diagnosis story. Next story that I have is actually at a school dance in high school. I was in grade 11, so that's like junior year for all of you that do it that way. And we had these winter school dances every year for the seniors and the juniors, and this was my first year going, and I was very excited. And obviously I had my pump on, and I also brought with me some glucose tablets, which are used when your blood sugar goes low and you need to bring it back up. You eat them. So I had those with me just in case, because I was going to be dancing and stuff, so you know, wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to go super low. And my school, this was my high school, they were obviously worried about kids drinking alcohol and bringing alcohol and stuff into the school. So when we entered the school, there was like security, which was just parents, I believe, that were like checking bags and everything, which is fine, obviously. So when they got to me, I was just like, I have diabetes, I have this stuff in my bag because I need it for my diabetes, blah, blah, blah. And the person was kind of like, oh, we had a conversation about it, but they were like, okay, that's fine, go ahead, go in. So it was all good and fine. I was having a good time dancing with my friends. And then it was about an hour or two into it, a woman, one of the security people, which again I said were just parents, she comes up to me and she's like, come here right now. And then she like grabs my arm and like pulls me into the bathroom. And I'm like, why? What's going on? And she's like, you have drugs. And she just kept saying like that to me. And I was like, what? No, I don't. And she just like kept saying it over and over. And she like opens my bag and she pulls out the glucose tablets. And she's like, you have drugs. Like, you're gonna get in trouble, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, she was, like, saying all this stuff, and I was like, no, I told you. Like, this was, I'm pretty sure the same lady who, like, checked me into the dance, and I was like, I told you I have diabetes. It's just, like, candy, basically. It's sugar tablets. I need them. And she was like, no, blah, blah, blah. And then I think my friends came in and they were like, helped me explain to her, and she eventually let me go. But it was the weirdest thing, because I guess maybe they had heard that someone at the dance actually did have some sort of drugs with them, and she remembered that I had my diabetes glucose tablets, and she was like, that's the girl, let me find her right now and pull her into the bathroom and get her in trouble. It was the craziest. That's probably my craziest diabetes story time, because honestly, like, that was wild. Like, I still, thinking about that, can't believe that happened. So that was fun. I didn't have drugs. It was actually just my diabetes supplies, but you know. My next story is about airport security, and if you're a type 1 diabetic, you know the struggle with airport security and trying to go through it. So let me just get into this. So basically, this was airport security in London, in the Heathrow airport, I believe, because I was going to France for a school trip, which I'm so thankful that I got to go on. But this was in my senior year of high school, and I was going to France. So I was not with my parents or anything, which I usually am when I'm going through airports and dealing with my diabetes. So I was like, okay, I need to do this by myself and be able to like navigate this and tell them and everything. So I did. I told them before going through security that I have type 1 diabetes, I'm wearing an insulin pump, I can't go through a certain thing, and they have to like figure that out, and that I also have like needles and stuff in my carry-on because I need them for my diabetes. So that's what it is. And it was going fine and stuff, but then they were like, okay, I have to put your bag through this special like thing to make sure that there's nothing bad in there. And I was like, okay, but you can't put this specific device through it, because I had an extra insulin pump, because the company that I have my insulin pump through says that when you're going on a trip like that, you need to bring a backup pump just in case your pump fails. So I had that, and they had specifically told me that they could not send it through those security machines, so they have to figure out another way to do it. And I just kept telling him this. I was like, you can't, they told me you can't do that. And he was like, well, we have to. And I was like, And then my teacher came up and was like, I explained what was happening to her, and she was like, okay. And then she said it to him, and he was like, okay. So a little bit frustrating that when me, who was basically an adult at that point, was trying to tell this man that I couldn't send this thing through the machine, that it didn't work, but when my teacher told him, he said okay. So that's a little bit frustrating. That was a bit of a frustrating situation, but it is what it is, and we all know that type 1 diabetes and airport security is always an adventure. So if you have any stories like that, if you're a type 1 diabetic, let me know down below, because it's definitely an experience every time. The next one is another vacation story, so that's great. This one happened quite recently, actually. It happened last year in February, right before all the COVID stuff happened. My family went to Mexico, and it was a really amazing trip, and I'm so thankful for that. But I had a fun experience with my diabetes there that I wanted to share with you. So as I said, I use an insulin pump, and this insulin pump that I use is not waterproof, it's water resistant. So I thought it was waterproof though, because a pump that I had previously was waterproof and you could go swimming with it and everything. So I thought that it was fine and that it could go in the water. So basically we were on this like little excursion thing, and we were going on a rope swing, and you did a rope swing and like jumped into a big thing of water. And so I did that, and I jumped in, and then my pump started like alarming. And I was like, oh no, like what's going on? And so I got out, and it was like alarming, and then it just shut off. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, you're just not gonna work anymore, okay. So it just stopped working in Mexico, and I had brought an extra, like a loaner pump with me, like I said in the last story, you need to do that with this insulin pump company. So I had brought one, except we were not at the resort at that point. This was like an off-resort excursion thingy. So I didn't have that with me, and we weren't going to be going home for another like 3 hours or something, or going back to the resort for another 3 hours. So I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be getting insulin, and I had a little freak out because my anxiety kind of freaked out, so that was not good. So yeah, I hadn't brought anything with me because I wasn't expecting my pump to fail, so all of it was back at the resort, everything that I needed to sort of solve this problem, and we weren't going back to the resort for a few hours, so I ended up just having to go without insulin for that time, which is not good. You need to have insulin when you have type 1 diabetes, so that was a bit of an experience. I couldn't really eat the lunch at the excursion place because I obviously couldn't give myself insulin. I ate like vegetables because those don't really have carbs and stuff, so I ate a little bit, but I couldn't really eat the lunch that they had for us, and we kept going with it, but it was a very stressful time, and my blood sugar ended up being okay, and it stayed like, it went a little bit out of range, like a little bit high, but it wasn't too terrible because I was exercising a lot. And when you're exercising, your body doesn't need as much insulin because you're like burning through the sugars and stuff. So it was all right, but definitely stressful. When I got back to the resort, we had to call my doctor and figure out how to start up the loaner pump, and we did get that to work, but it was very stressful being in Mexico, not in my home country or anything, and having to figure out this experience, but we did figure it out, and it was okay, but it was very stressful. Okay, and the final stories that I'm going to tell are just really short ones. The first is that last year when school was not online yet, and I was still going to lectures, I was in a lecture hall, and my pump ran out of batteries, and I did not have any batteries with me, and when that happens, the pump just alarms, like, and it won't stop. So I was like, are you actually kidding me? Everyone was like looking around like, what is happening? And it wasn't super loud, so I feel like only the people like directly around me could hear, but I was like, seriously? Is this really happening right now? So I ended up taking the pump off and shoving it to the bottom of my backpack and putting a bunch of stuff on top of it because I was in the middle of a like row of seats, so I could not easily get up, and I just felt like I didn't want to disrupt the lecture by getting up, but I was already kind of disrupting the lecture with my pump. But when I shoved it to the bottom of my bag, you could barely hear it, so that was fine. But everyone was like confused and wondering what the hell the sound was. And it was my pump because I didn't have batteries and I couldn't replace it. So that was really good. Since then, always have batteries with me for my pump because you never know when she's just gonna run out and start freaking out on you. So definitely needed. Those are all my stories, my type 1 diabetes stories. I hope that these were a little bit interesting for you or you got a laugh out of them because some of them are pretty funny and it's just, I don't know, it's this condition comes with its ups and downs, and I'm glad that I've gotten to a point with it where I can laugh about the experiences that I have sometimes. And yeah, it sucks every once in a while, and I wish I don't have it sometimes, but ultimately it's made me a stronger person, and I'm thankful for the experiences that diabetes has given me. Anyways, that is it for this week's video, so thank you all so much for watching. If you have any other video requests, feel free to leave them down below because I like to make videos that you guys want to see. And I will see you next week for another video. Bye, guys.